President Trump announces a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries shuts down a Republican offer to subsidize Obamacare for a year to end the shutdown. And as races tighten in New Jersey and Virginia, Republican groups launch a blitz in the biggest midterm election campaign in the party's history. I'm Tony Kinnett, host of the Daily Signal's Tony Kinnett Cast, syndicated nationally at 7 p.m. Eastern. It is Thursday, October 9th, 2025. This is the Daily Signal's top news in 10. Yesterday, in the middle of a roundtable on the domestic terrorism from Antifa, with a lot of independent journalists, friends of the Daily Signal and the Tony Kinnett Cast, President Trump was handed a note by Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
Criminal conspiracy.
Okay. I'm just given. I was just given a note by the Secretary of State saying that we're very close to a deal in the Middle East, and they're going to need me pretty quickly, so I will take a couple of more questions.
President Trump later put out this tweet on Truth Social, quote, "I am very proud to announce that Israel and Hamas have both signed off on the first phase of our peace plan. This means that all of the hostages will be released very soon, and Israel will withdraw their troops to an agreed-upon line as the first steps toward a strong, durable, and everlasting peace. All parties will be treated fairly. This is a great day for the Arab and Muslim world, Israel, all surrounding nations, and the United States of America. And we thank the mediators from Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey who worked with us to make this historic and unprecedented event happen. Blessed are the peacemakers." End quote. According to the Saudi Al Hadath news agency and confirmed by other outlets, Israel and Hamas are set to enter a complete ceasefire agreement going into effect across the Gaza Strip on Thursday, October 9th at 12 p.m. Cairo time, which is 3 a.m. Eastern time. Hopefully by the time you are watching this, that ceasefire has gone into effect. The President of the United States is likely to travel to the Middle East, according to a statement from Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt yesterday. Quote, "President Trump is considering going to the Middle East shortly after a trip to Walter Reed Medical Center for remarks with the troops and an annual checkup." And Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries shut down an offer from New York Republican Mike Lawler yesterday about funding Obamacare for a year in order to end the government shutdown, a bill just for funding the subsidies from the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare.
We got a one-year extension. Why don't we sign on right now?
Let me ask you a question. Did you get permission from your boss?
Why don't we sign on right now?
Did your boss, Donald Trump?
You can easily extend the ACA
right now. Did your boss, Donald Trump, give you permission? Yes, he is.
No, he's not. And by the way,
so let me ask you a
why
question.
did you vote to shut the government down? Why did you vote to shut it down?
Let me ask you a question.
For years, you always lectured about how we need to keep the government open.
You're making a show of this to make yourself relevant.
It's sad. You could easily sign on to this.
You're embarrassing yourself right now.
You could sign on to this. The only embarrassment here is you.
You're an embarrassment.
You could sign on to the bill.
Let me ask you a question.
You have 4 Democrats on here.
Why
won't you sign on?
Let me ask you a question.
It's a clean extension for 1 year.
You voted for the one big ugly bill, correct?
I voted for a tax cut bill that gave the largest tax cut to Americans in history, including, by the way, the average New Yorker getting a $4,000 tax cut. Are you against that?
You're embarrassing yourself right now.
Do you want to cut the standard deduction in half?
The largest cut to Medicaid in American history. You voted for that.
Fraud and abuse, by the way.
You voted.
Tom DiNapoli, the Democratic controller of New York,
let me ask you a question.
Pointed out that $1.2 billion were wasted.
Listen, you're not going to talk to me. You're not going to talk to me and talk over me
New York residents
because you don't want to hear what I have to say.
Oh, I'm listening.
So why don't you just keep your mouth shut?
Oh,
because you showed up.
Is that the way to talk?
You showed up.
And as races tighten in New Jersey and Virginia, the New Jersey gubernatorial election now at a dead heat, a 43% tie in recent polling, as well as the Virginia Attorney General race, with Democrat Jay Jones only 1 point ahead of Jason Miyares, the incumbent Republican Attorney General, after the horrific scandal for Jay Jones, in which multiple texts over a series of years were released showing him wishing for the death of a political member on the opposite side of the aisle, as well as his wife and children, alongside suggesting a few police officers might need to die in order to gain social change. As these races tighten up, there is a key series of Republican groups, as well as the RNC itself, which are throwing more than ever seen in a midterm election campaign in Republican Party history. David McIntosh, president of Club for Growth, sat down to talk about a series of campaigns that not only starts with a series of Virginia ads in the Jay Jones, Jason Miyares election, but a major redistricting effort that sweeps across a huge number of states in the country.
You know, it's key that we win these redistricting efforts in the state level. The House is very closely divided. Democrats for 10 years have been rigging the system in California, Massachusetts, Illinois, all of the deep blue states where they've totally gerrymandered, made it so that Republicans are virtually unrepresented from those states, even though they don't have a majority, but 45% of their electorate are Republicans voting for President Trump, want to vote for Republican members of Congress. So now it's time Republicans really do the same thing. Texas led, and we're going to have 5 more seats there. Missouri also redistricted. We've got 1 seat there. Our home state of Indiana is looking at it. I think we could get 2 seats there. Ohio has to redistrict. They've got a kind of strange redistricting law that if it's not bipartisan back in 2020, 2021, then they have to redo it now for 2026. And we think we can pick up 2 more seats there in Ohio.
Well, that's actually, we'll put a pin in that one. I want you to give us the rest of them. But Ohio was just mentioned to me yesterday, turning out to be way more important in 26 than anyone thought. But please continue.
No, you're absolutely right. Definitely we should come back to it. And Kentucky is looking at it. That may be more difficult. And then Florida has said, yes, we're going to take it up next year when the regular session starts in January. And we're looking at some other states as well. But the goal here is to add anywhere from 5 to 10 more Republican seats by matching what the Democrats have done for the last decade. And then conservatives and Republicans will be represented in Congress. But honestly, I think even without the additional seats, we're winning right now. Yesterday in Tennessee, we had a special election in the primary to replace Mark Green, who's retiring. Our guy, Matt Bennett, shout out to him. He's going to be a great new congressman, won handily with President Trump's endorsement. And Club for Growth, like you said, we came in strong, probably $1 million in spending in that campaign. Jim Jordan also spent some of his resources. He's a great ally, and we won decisively. What that tells me is that President's approval rating is still very, very high, that Republicans are willing to come out and vote when he says it's important. And so in the midterm, we all know if the Democrats get the majority, day one, they'll start impeaching him. They'll start impeaching his cabinet. They'll try to stop everything he's doing. They're already doing that. They just don't have the power to. And so the message that we're going to send voters in the midterms is we can't let the Democrats back in the door. All they'll do is try to stop the president, stop the progress, undo it, rewind it, go back to the bad old Biden days. And so I think we could just win flat out, even without the redistricting, because the presidents remain strong, remain positive. There's also, this gets into the nitty gritty a little, Tony, but there's some structural advantages we have. As you know, there's only about 25, maybe 30 seats that end up being battleground seats in a close election. And of those seats, there are more Democrats sitting in a Trump district than Republicans representing a Kamala Harris district. So structurally, we also have a slight advantage going into that midterm.
Well, that's what makes California so fascinating, that's what makes Ohio so fascinating to me. And this is, of course, we at the Daily Signal have just put in a special correspondent into Ohio, Rebecca Downs, formerly of Town Hall. She's covering a ton of I didn't realize how intensive those campaigns were this time around, because obviously Ohio's gone more red in kind of the presidential over the last couple of elections, but it's congressional districts. And then, of course, that redistricting effort you mentioned, very highly contested. And this could be a big turning point, a big swivel point for the state of Ohio for the next 10, 20 years. Tell us about what you're seeing in the ground there.
No, that's exactly right. And it starts at the governor's race. Vivek Ramaswamy is exciting Republicans and independents all over the state with his vision for the state. There's going to be a Senate race with the newly appointed Senator Husted Their Democrats recruited Sherrod Brown to come back and try to take back a Senate seat. But
with
then
some rather lackluster results so far, but Sherrod's still trying, God bless him.
I think Ohio turned the corner on that one, and they realized he sounded like one of them, but he went back to Washington and he just voted with all these far left crazies who are shutting down
there's a
the
smell of some
government.
sour milk on some of the votes that actually hit the floor that I don't think are going to resonate this time.
Yeah.
We'll link the rest of that interview in the description below. Also of note, Vice President J.D. Vance is set to be in Indiana to meet with a last couple of holdouts on a redistricting measure that could gain 2 Republican seats in the Indiana congressional delegation. Before you go, head down to the description and make sure you're subscribed to the Tony Kinnett Cast. And join us tonight at 7 p.m. for a roundup of the day's news and nonsense. I'm Tony Kinnett, and this has been the Daily Signal's top news in 10. Take care.